Jeremy Rosenthal joins us now for a weekly legal segment. We look at some interesting legal cases in the news. Of course, the Georgia school shooting happened here a few weeks ago, and a new audio of the alleged shooter and father encounter with police has been made available, I guess. Jeremy, take me through what's going on here, as the father was charged with murder, manslaughter, and child cruelty.
Right. You had the tragic situation in Ohio, the shooting, and what they're saying is that the father, Colin Gray, was on notice that his son had all these problems. And about a year before the shooting, the FBI had actually investigated the young man, the boy, for online threats that he had posted. And there's an audio recording that just got released, which I mean, just kind of talks about the conversation between the authorities and the dad and the son, and it's just not good for Colin Gray. A lot of things a lot of red flags here that went missed.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more that parents are being held accountable in these types of situations, although this one is maybe more severe than others. But we're starting to see authorities trying to, I don't want to say pin this on parents, but try to figure out how some of these incidents happen when these kids obviously have behavioral problems or other mitigating circumstances here. These parents aren't doing their due diligence or their own parental duty here, right?
I think that's exactly right. You had the Crumbly case in Michigan, which was the Michigan school shooter. That one had particularly bad facts. Obviously, any school shooting is terrible. This one had really, really bad facts for the parents. In that case, the parents were actually brought to the school the day of the shooting, told, please take your child out of school. There's problems here. He was drawing pictures of guns, and the teachers saw that, and the parents said, no, 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 leave him. So it's all about that nexus. It's all about that issue of how much notice did the parents have of what was going on. I mean, certainly, I think any responsible gun owner would tell you that there's a lot of basic things you can do to secure the firearms in the house, regardless of whether or not there's red flags with your child. But these cases go above and beyond that. These cases are a combination of lack of securing your weapons, in combination with knowing that you've got a lot of problems there with your teenager.
Attorney Jeremy Rosenthal with us, a legal segment. A recent incident involving a Florida surgeon is on our list here. He removed a liver when he meant to remove a spleen, and that has brought Florida's so-called free kill law, which is a strange outlier among wrongful death laws across the country, back in the spotlight. Jeremy, give us the particulars here.
So Florida's got this law that says that if you are over 25 and you have no dependents, and if you are killed essentially in a medical malpractice accident, you can't sue. Which is just kind of, in other states, what you would be able to do is your estate, if you die, your estate has a lawsuit for wrongful death, and then the beneficiaries and the heirs can go after and pursue justice for you. But Florida doesn't let you do that. Florida basically says, and it's quote unquote a free kill, because you can be killed and not held accountable for it by a doctor. And I mean, these types of things happen where a wrong organ is taken out, or somebody leaves a surgical instrument inside of a body. It happens. I mean, doctors they're more angry at other doctors than anybody else for these types of incidents of malpractice. But this law is kind of a particularly crazy one. And we'll see if Florida repeals it. They've just taken a ton of heat over it. So we'll see what happens about that.
Is this one of those laws that just over the years kind of got forgotten about, we should repeal, and then all of a sudden it comes back into the forefront? We're like, oh yeah, we forgot to repeal that. How does this even get on the books?
Well, no, if any insurance folks are listening, don't take this the wrong way. This is what happens when you let insurance companies write your laws. This was one of the laws that passed in a wave of malpractice reform, tort reform back in the early 90s. And it never got taken off the books. But I mean, look, there were some legitimate fears about malpractice rates spiking back then because it was a lot easier to sue medical providers. And this was one of the control measures that they put in place to try to limit the exposure. But again, but what a lot of states did is they capped it. They said, okay, we're just going to cap these things. That's going to keep the insurance under control. Florida just said, if you are over 25 and you get your spleen taken out by accident and you don't have any dependents, tough, no money for you. And again, it just, I mean, we'd all love to say that bad doctors need to be punished or policed, but yeah, that it kind of takes them off the hook for that, and there's not a lot of accountability, and it makes you kind of worry about like, okay, my dad is 77, his wife is deceased, I'm over 25. Does that mean he goes in for surgery? The doctor's like, well, I can screw this one up, and it's not a big deal. But yeah, scary stuff.
Yeah, Jeremy Rosenthal, attorney, with us. We turn to TikTok and its potential ban. They're turning to the Supreme Court here and trying to, of course, with the law or the Congress has said if they don't divest from the Chinese Communist government, then they'll have to be banned in America. What's the latest here?
They had a big argument in front of the Supreme Court. It is the classic government security versus free speech argument. TikTok's coming in and saying you are denying our users the right to freedom of speech. And in that analysis, what happens is you weigh two things. It's a balancing act. First off, the government has to come in and say, we have a compelling interest here in limiting this speech, which I think they are. And what you had is a bipartisan measure that says, look, a Chinese company owns TikTok. That's ByteDance. And not only do they own them, they can take all the data from it. And if they don't like American public opinion, they can manipulate the algorithm in a way that's gonna sort of change American public thinking. So the government has a very compelling interest. The problem is, and where this law's got problems is, it has to be this has to be the only way. The government has to come in and say, look, this was the only way we could stop this. And there's arguments that, look, well, you could make it a crime to transfer data to a Chinese national government. There's other measures, and that's what TikTok is doing. It's very complicated, but it comes down to, again, the classic security versus speech.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. Jeremy Rosenthal, attorney, with us for a legal segment. Jeremy, we appreciate you taking time.
Thanks, always fun.